by attending lots of area meetings where she shares and is honest, open, and candid. I know she does a lot of work with sober women. She has helped many of you and gives freely of her time and her experience. And I'm continuing to get to know her. She's adorable, she's awesome, she's funny, and she's real. The first topic is personal recovery depends upon AA unity, which is tradition number 1. And I'm just going to read a passage and then hand it over to her from the 12 and 12. The unity of Alcoholics Anonymous is the most cherished quality our society has. Our lives, the lives of all to come, depend squarely upon it. We stay whole or AA dies. Without unity, the heart of AA would cease to beat. Our world arteries would no longer carry the life-giving grace of God. His gift to us would be spent aimlessly. Back again in their caves, alcoholics would reproach us and say, what a great thing AA might have been. And I'm going to turn it over to Jane.
Hi guys, my name is Jane. I'm an alcoholic. And I'm really excited to be here. So I'll go through like the basics, but I want to thank Chris with a K, who's here on her birthday weekend, which I think is really cool, and Chris B, who's like, the wizard behind the curtain, kind of running everything, and thank Peter, who owns this property here and is always willing to, like, hey, if you need it, it's yours, come on out. So we used to bring, pre-COVID, I would have girls out here on Sunday mornings for breakfast, or we do, different things out here. We'd either meet here, or we'd meet at the house over there, and he'd always open it up, and that's awesome, All right, so and plus the committee, like there's so many people behind the scenes helping, taking out garbage, cleaning up, Eddie cut all the lawn, he's out there busting his ass too, so give Eddie a thank you too. Okay, so my sobriety date is November 15th of 2000. I have a home group. It is Ludwig's Corner. Meets out here in Glenmoore on Wednesday nights. I'm going to plug that we are having our group anniversary on May 11th. We're going to have dinner at 6, and Kim P. out from Philly is coming out to do a talk at 7:30. If you haven't heard Kim, she's awesome. So if you'd like to come on out, we'd love to have you. The food should be great. I don't think I'm going to make it in this jacket. I was trying to class my shit up, but I'm just going to be the slut I am. So I'm just kidding. I'm not a slut anymore. Okay. So I'm just going to... I was really, like, when Chris asked me, I was like, well, nobody wants to hear me, I'm from here. But then I was like, you know what, I need to be honored. I need to be honored to be asked to do this. And when I saw what I was talking about, which was the first tradition, I got so excited, guys, because I love the traditions. And not everybody does, but I love them. So I'm going to start off by talking about... And I'm kind of nervous. I don't get very nervous speaking very often, but tonight I do, because there's some greats out here. Bob and Scott and people I looked up to. I mean, Bob's CD with his tradition CD I wore out in my car in early sobriety. You know what I mean? And then you're like, I'm here with him tonight, and I'm like, wow, this is so cool. I just want to enjoy it and be a part of. But my ego is like, oh, I'm speaking with Bob, and then the other part of my ego is like, I'm not good enough to speak with Bob. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, it doesn't really matter. I'm just here to carry a message. I'm just here to share my experience with traditions, because I love their traditions. I love unity. I love it so much that I can tell you that my journey in AA, I grew up and had more spiritual and emotional maturity once I learned and added the traditions into my life. More so than the steps, I'll say that. The steps got me sober, but the traditions have helped me grow a lot. So I'm going to first start by talking about, so I got all this shit out, right? Oh, I have a sponsor. Her name is Sammy G. She's from Richmond, Virginia. I love her. She's been my sponsor for many, many, many years. She knows she's my sponsor. We talk regularly. She has no problem handing me the truth when I need it. And she also can be really loving and kind and let me know, you know what, you're doing great, Jean. Because I need to hear that too sometimes, you know. So I'm going to start by talking about the triangle, the enclosed triangle, okay? And the reason why is because when I started working with Sammy the first time, she made me draw it in my book. I have a 30 days. This is my big book. It's a shit show, but she made me draw it in my book, and she made me learn it. And I'm very grateful for that. I might completely fall apart up here with this podium and my book and everything, so we're just going to do the best we can, kids. And in AA Comes of Age, Bill talks that there was no accident that he chose that symbol, right? This enclosed triangle, because priests and seers used to use it in ancient times to ward off evil spirits, right? And if you're new here and you think we're a cult, this is definitely going to help. So don't worry, okay? And if I kind of want to take it a little further, right? If I consider myself the triangle, the body, right? And you all are the circle, when I'm in the middle of all you all, I'm protected from evil spirits, right? And what is alcohol? Spirits, right? I'm protected, right? So without you, there is no me, right? When I called Sammy to tell her about this talk, that's all she kept saying to me. She was like yelling it to me. Without you, there is no me. I'm like, I got it, you know? And so I love that, okay? So then I can take it a step further. So if we look at the triangle, right? And our three legacies, okay? So we have a threefold disease. We have a spiritual, mental, and physical, or mental, physical, spiritual, you know, whatever way you want to do that, okay? And then we have a threefold solution, right? And a triangle is equal on all sides, and I think that's really important to remember, right? Because we gotta have equal parts of it, okay? And so we have recovery, unity, and service, or recovery, service, and unity, right? To kind of go hand in hand. So when I sit down and I talk about, if I want to talk about the base of that triangle, right? That is recovery, right? That is the 12 steps, right? That is like admitting I'm an alcoholic, coming to believe, you know, turning my will over, you know, writing an inventory, sharing with another person. That is, you know, learning how to pray, making amends, learning how to pray more by asking, you know, and then maybe turn around and helping others. And when I am working my 12 steps, right, so the inner part of that triangle, my mind starts to heal. Sanity starts to return, okay? And then you've got the other leg, which is service. And there's 12 concepts in AA. I don't know if you might not know that. You might know that. I am not well versed in the 12 concepts, but I know a lot of people. I know a few people that are, and I know some people who really love the service structure of AA on that kind of level. Me personally, I've been an intergroup rep. I've been a GSR rep. I'd rather poke my eyes out with a fork. But a lot of people really love it, and I'm so grateful for those people. You know, because you're needed in AA. You're absolutely needed, right? But if I want to take it on a smaller scale of service, right? My home group, what am I doing? Do I have a home group? Am I getting in service in that home group, right? Am I getting a job in that home group? And I love my home group. I just finished up a treasury. I actually started going to this other little meeting, and they asked me to get involved, and I'm like, oh yeah, you know, I like doing that. I like getting involved. I like starting things up, you know? And so, anywhere that I can kind of be helpful in that way, I really like that. And so when I'm of service, right, and there's so many other ways, right? I've done the AA hotline, I've done jails, I did York County Prison for 7 years, I did Karen Foundation, I did a lot of service. I was on the AA hotline, I said that maybe. But when I'm of service, right, my spirit comes alive, right? I'm like, right? So really important. And then the last leg, which is the one I'm going to talk about, is unity, right? And so that is, to me, the 12 traditions, okay? Because all 11 support that one. Personal recovery depends upon AA unity. And unity is so important. And when I knew I was talking about that, it's weird, when you start kind of thinking about something you're going to talk about, I started, all these, like, girls would call me in situations, and the answer is unity. In every situation, I'm like, it's unity, And I love that, it just kind of really made me aware of how important unity is, right? And when I'm in unity, right, when I'm fellowshipping, when I'm a part of, when I'm with you, right, my body relaxes. My body's not so relaxed right now, but my body relaxes. And I'm much less of worry and anxiety, And so that's really important. So to talk about the traditions a little bit, okay, and I'm not like a total expert or anything, and I love them for a lot of different reasons. But one of the things I know for sure is that Bill penned them in 1946 for the grapevine. I think he called it like the 12 points of assurance. I think there's some more words after that, but pretty much that's the gist. And they weren't really well received at first, right? Because nobody really wants to be told what to do. And I think there were like some groups that really felt like they had their own rules going on, and they didn't want, Bill coming in and telling them what to do. And then other people were like, okay, that's nice, Bill, have your little traditions. I don't think it would have been much different today, right? But Bill's thing was like pretty much that, like, these traditions were penned out of experience, right? Things that threatened AA. And so they didn't just, he even says, I didn't write them. They were just the experience of the groups, right? And so one of the things is that we as a group, especially in the early days, right? But when our society was younger, right, we dealt with a lot of things that was going to break up unity, right? And things that we deal with today, right? Relapsing. And so, right, there's 5 of them, right? I'm going to use that. I'm going to, kind of make up shit right now, right? So there's 5 of them, and, 3 of them drink, and 2 of them are looking at each other like, who's next, right? And so they don't really know how this is all going to play out. And eventually 1 or 2 does stay sober, and then some do come back. And they realize that they don't have to be afraid of relapsing, right? Just like today, we don't need to be afraid when people relapse. We don't need to criticize it. We don't need to make a big deal out of it. I mean, in the sense that, like, how you fit into this society. That it's part of the deal, right? And another thing was like affairs, right? Like people having sex in AA, because that doesn't happen today at all, right? And like, people were having affairs in AA, and people were taking sides, and coming in, and really, and it was really causing a lot of problems. And they realized if they just let it be, if they just let they didn't get involved in it, they didn't make a big deal out of it, things kind of work themselves out. And that's really important. The traditions ask us all to lay down our pride, our fear, our resentments, and come together, and it deals with character defects on a group level as well as on like a personal level if we allow it, So I'll tell you what, I know that I want AA to be here for my sons, okay? My mom got sober in 1969 and broke a chain of a lot of alcoholism in the family, brutal alcoholism, brutal, abuse and all that kind of stuff. And she got sober when many women weren't getting sober in New York City. And I came into AA in 2000. And I have 2 sons, and they're 15 and 19. And I want AA to be here for them. And so it's really important for me to make sure that these traditions are getting taught and they're being implemented and people know about them, because they were put in place to protect us from us, so that this society can move on. It's been here 87 years because of these traditions. That's a long time in today's society, And Nobody's ranked higher. I'm not better than you. I am not some sort of like special AA talky person. Do you know what I mean? We're all on the same level. Even the people that work in New York, no matter what's going on, where you go, we are all on the same level. Nobody's above anybody else. And that is really important. And so, listen, I have a 15 and 19-year-old. I have a 19-year-old. Bob said it last night, he called it the ick, which I kind of liked, right? He talked about alcoholic, and then he take away the alcohol, you got the ick, and I like that. And I sometimes use ism, right? Get the ism. So I got a 19-year-old son who's never picked up a drink because his dad is really, really in bad shape, and he doesn't want to touch it, right? But you put him in front of a video game for 2 days with a thing of iced tea, he looks like he's been smoking crack. Do you know what I mean? He's like sweaty, and the pupils are dilated, and he's like, what? I'm like, having a good time, buddy? And I got a 15-year-old that when he was 11 built a bong that could have, was like a genius. I mean, he, got on YouTube. He melted shit. He had out of a Gatorade bottle. I mean, it was really nice, right? And he got in trouble. He was smoking paper, but I've always been really attracted to that lifestyle, always been really attracted. He's 15 today. He's with a guy named Nick. I don't know Nick. Somewhere. And not that I don't know where my kid is, but he's just a wild spirit, right? He's an A student, and he goes, he's like, I'm taking care of my stuff. Don't leave me alone. And so I kind of give him a little bit of that grace. He lets me know he smokes pot. He lets me know he tried acid the other day. I'm like, I don't think we should be this close. And I worry about him. I really worry about him. And I just pray, and I just try to be the best mom I can be, and really be the best AA member I can be. Because if he needs this program, I want to be attraction. I want to be attractive to him, and that's really important. So I'm going to, share a couple stories with you about, and let me tell you something. I didn't have unity growing up, okay? I didn't come from a family that was unified in any kind of way. My parents were born in the 1930s. Children should be seen, not heard. The home, my mom left my dad when I was 2 and then came back because she couldn't afford to live on her own. So we were living together, but they were divorced. And there was a lot of blame and judgment, and there was a lot of, everybody kind of went into their separate corners, and that's how it was. So there was no unity in my home. And then they weren't involved in anything, too. It wasn't like they were involved in sports or involved in the community and involved in any kind of way that really taught me anything about unity, right? And so when I was drinking, I wasn't in unity with anyone, right? I was all about me. What are you going to do for me? How am I going to get mine? If I worked at a job, I wasn't for the greater good of that company. I was like, how much money can I make? Why, you should be paying me more. Things aren't fair. I had a lot of those types of things in my vocabulary, and so when I come into AA and I get through the 12 steps and I'm kind of going through this journey, I'm starting to learn about unity in different ways. So my first sponsor, her name was Meg, and she really did teach me about the fellowship, and she really did show me about women can get together and we can be kind and we can be helpful and we can do those kinds of things. And she was like a beautiful example of really women loving other women and wanting women to come in and feel comfortable. And I'm very grateful that that she had found me and that I had found her, right? My second sponsor was more, taught me about getting on the farm lines at AA, and really about the service structure and getting me out there in that way. And I'm grateful for that. But one place I didn't know how to be, one place I had some trouble was at home. But I'm going to kind of backtrack. I'll go back there. I want to kind of backtrack to unity in AA. So I was about 9-10 years sober, and my home group at the time asked me, right, to do a group inventory, to lead it. And I was like, oh, okay. My ego was like, right? And I remember calling Sammy, and I'm like, hey, you know what they want me to do? They want me to do the group inventory, you know? And she's like, no, don't do it. And I was like, yeah, but she's like, it would be a really big mistake if you do it. It's not going to go how you think it's going to go. And I'm like, I think it'll be fine. But she's like, I really don't think you should do it, Jane. She'll get like mad a little bit. And I'd be like, okay, Sammy, yeah, I won't do it. Okay, bye. And I just completely ignored her. And I don't know why I did. I don't always ignore her, but then that particular thing, my ego was like, I'm doing this group inventory, right? Katie was there. It was quite a scene, right? So we get down and we're doing this group inventory and we're going through the things. And one of the home group members happens to be a guy that's like a little brother to me. Okay, so we've got personalities, right? We got personalities going on here, right? And this kid, I hired this kid at my job, and I've taken him in when he got out of rehab, and like we're real close, right? And he said something so dumb, and I'm like, "You're an idiot," right in the middle of the meeting. Like, shut up. Like nobody, like you're an idiot, And some other principal member says, "Well, like Jane, like you're being a little hard, like we." And I'm like, "Why don't you stay out of it?" Right? Right? And then Katie could probably tell you more of it. And then somebody else said something, and I'm like, you know what? And I went off, right? And everybody was like, everybody just like this. Like, are you kidding? Did this just really happen? And I stormed off, God damn it, and I was so embarrassed. And then I went to the bathroom, and I think Tara, one of my sponsees, who I'd sponsored for a long time, came in, and she's like, "Girl, I don't know what just happened out there," and it hit me. I had no business running that group inventory. That was all ego. It wasn't for the betterment of AA. It wasn't for the betterment of my group. It was all about me. And I had to make amends to my group, make amends to him, make amends to her, and I did all those things. You know what I mean? And it was humbling, and I'm glad I did it, and I'm glad I have the experience, because I'll never do anything like that again. And when she tells me, don't do it, I'm like, okay, not doing it. Because I was embarrassed, So, another thing that helps me in Unity and Alcoholics Anonymous, I gotta check the time. I can't see anything. Another thing that helps me in Unity and Alcoholics Anonymous. So, as I'm in early sobriety, I do the steps. I get sponsees, right? But see, now I'm getting sponsees because it's a number game, right? To me, right? Because if I get the more sponsees I get, the sober I am, right? Right, and I would get some sponsees, and I'm taking them through the steps, and I'm giving them this book, and I'm giving them good AA, because I'm a beast, right? I'm giving them good AA, right? And then we're sitting in a meeting, and one of them says something so fucking dumb, right? And I'm like, how'd you learn that? I'm thinking that. I didn't teach you that, And then another one, does something else. I'm like, why are you doing that? That's not what we do, right? And eventually I got fired from all them, right? Like I should. And because I didn't understand Unity, and I didn't understand what my purpose was right out there, right? And it really my perception started to change, right? And what I've come to realize, right, is that this disease of alcohol, I like to call it the whack-a-mole disease, right? Because you kind of push down alcoholism, and it might pop up over here as sex. And you push down some sex, right? It pops over here as eating. And you get push down the eating, and you're over again sleeping with somebody, right? And you push down that, and maybe you're gambling and whatever, right? Whatever it is, right? And so as I'm watching that, and watching and seeing it happen in myself at times too, how can I sit and judge where somebody's at in their recovery, in their journey, right? Because somebody might be dealing with, sex or a relationship issue or food or gambling, right? And I'm not dealing with that stuff right now, or that's not my path, or I haven't gotten there yet. So if I sit there and judge somebody else, how am I practicing unity in AA, right? So I started to really realize that, I want people to be able to share things with me, and I want to be able to look at women and even men and not judge where they're at in their recovery, no matter what kind of program they're working, right? If they have a requirement to stop drinking, they belong here. You know, some might be a little bit more active than others. It doesn't matter, but I can't sit there and say where they should be or how they should be acting or what they should be doing, because I'm not their God. I don't know what they're supposed to be learning at that time, the relationships they're supposed to have in their life and what that's supposed to look like. So that was really important for me to understand that. And I try to cultivate that with the women that I sponsor, right? And I get together and I'm like, look, we don't sleep with each other's boyfriends, okay? We don't do that. You know, we try to support each other. We don't talk about each other when somebody screws up, right? We don't do that. I'm not going to do that. That is something I've tried to stick to very well. I don't say, if I have a judgment that goes through my head, I say, there for the grace of God goes I. There for the grace of God goes I, because I have to remember where I came from. And I've walked through some things in AA, and I'll tell more of my story tomorrow. I've walked through some things in AA where, thank God, I wasn't judged. Thank God I wasn't, oh my God, look at her, look what she's doing, thank God. I was, the girls that I sponsor, they'd show up at my house. I mean, we ordered a lot of Chinese food, right? They picked me up, they took me to meetings, right? And I'm so grateful for that, because without you, there is no me, And so that's been, huge for me. I'm going to share a couple other stories. I have a boyfriend. I'll get into that tomorrow. He's a good dude, right? He was lying underneath a Corvette when I left, And we moved in together about 5 years ago, and he had 2 kids and I had 2 kids, and we really, I believe God put us together, right, at this kind of really vulnerable part in both of our lives. And all of a sudden I became a stepmom. And I was like, this sucks. And I was like, I don't know if I could handle this. And I can remember calling my sponsor and being like, I think I should go. I'm a runner. I'm like, I think I made a really big mistake. I think I need to go right now. And she's like, no, you're going to stay for a year. She's like, you're going to stay for a year, and in a year, we'll talk about it. And I was like, okay, right? Because at this point, I listen better, I'm like, okay. And I stayed for a year. And then I stayed for 2 years. And I wasn't really blessed with the maternal gene. I mean, I had kids, but they can tell you, too, I'm not the warm and fuzzy mom, And, but I learned to kind of find my way in this relationship with my stepson and my stepdaughter, and find my way with that. And trying to find unity in my home, right? And like I said, I didn't come from unity. And I'm one of those, if I'm not happy, right? And I'll share this real quick, right? I remember my ex-husband said to me once, he said, why can't I get that woman that walks into AA and smiles at everybody and lights up a room? Why can't I get her at home? And he was right? Because I could turn it on in AA. When I got home, I was like, F you, I have a headache, I don't feel good. Leave me alone. Why don't you do this? Why are you doing that? Right? And so I had to go through a journey with that, with learning how to bring the best parts of me into my home. The one that smiled. I'm not saying that I don't get cranky, but I smile a lot more. I'm a lot more, if I'm not feeling good, I gotta keep my mouth shut. I don't make a big deal out of it. I don't disturb the whole household because I don't feel good, So that was really important to me. And so when I was, so my stepkids, 2 things. I was sitting down one day and we have this small house and there's 4 kids and it's annoying sometimes, right? And everything is kind of broken, right? We got a cabinet falling off and shit, and we got a window that doesn't open, don't open that window, you know what I mean? And, it's kind of that kind of house, and, he's not fixing anything until the kids are grown type. And so I'm sitting there and I'm just like, oh my God, I just want a nice house. I'm sober this many years and I just want a nice house. Why can't I have a nice house, right? And when you look at a door handle, I know women will get this right away, right? When you look at the door, around the doorknob, and there's all the fingerprints and shit, and you're like, And I had that moment where I was looking at that, and all of a sudden, God came into me and said, aren't you so lucky to have a house that's lived in? And there's laughter and fingerprints on the door, you know? And that stuff gets made the sandwiches get made at the counter. I mean, it all gets left there, but they get made. You know? And isn't that good? Isn't that a good life? And man, I was like, oh God, okay. And then about a couple weeks after that, my stepkids come home, and they were at their mom's, and their mom's been drinking a lot with her husband and stuff, and they've been arguing a lot. And they sit down, they're like, we're so happy we're here. And I'm like, you are? And they're like, yeah. Like, this, you know what, we feel so relaxed here. This is like our sanctuary place. Like, we're so comfortable here. This is where we want to be. You want to be in my house? Really? And I was like, I had that moment where I was like, these are the gifts of recovery. That I was able to cultivate unity in my home. Because I put my prejudice, my resentment, my anger to the side. And so that has been a tremendous gift. My employer, okay, so I am, I really think I should be like a CEO by this point, but I'm not. I'm a total humbled paper, well, I don't push paper anymore, but I push a lot of buttons on a computer. And I used to get in trouble for my anger, right? My boss would be like, you have anger issues. And I'd be like, F you, no I don't. And I have to call my sponsor, you know, and she'd be like, that's what you're supposed to do. You know, that's what you get paid to do. And, you know, I had to do a lot of work in that area of my life of learning to just be a servant at work, right? And so they said, well, be a service to your employer. Well, I hate my employer. Like, I don't want to be a service to my employer. But what I do is mortgages. And so somebody said, why don't you be a service to the people that you're serving to get these homes? And I said, I can do that, right? And so I started doing that, right? And I started realizing that my company is the common good, not me. Not what's best for me, but what's best for my company. So in my job, I had to learn unity. I had to learn how to be one among many employees. And if my boss said, you know, run to the mailbox and skip back, I'd be like, okay. If you feel that's for the betterment of this company, I'm going to do that, you know? I mean, my head might be like, you're an idiot, but I'll do it. And I'll keep my mouth shut while I'm doing it. And so that's growth for me, you know, to really learn how to be about the betterment of the company in that sense. So as I kind of walk through these, you know, traditions in my life, and as I said, like, they really help me with emotional and spiritual maturity in a lot of different ways, you know. And some of those ways, and one of the things I have to do is when I'm around people and I'm starting to feel a little bit of, you know, those things that pop up that get in the way of my unity, that get in the way of the unity of the group, you know, I say the St. Francis prayer. I only say 3 lines out of the St. Francis prayer of Assisi. I say, God, help me to be comforted. Help me to comfort rather than be comforted. Help me to love rather than to be loved. You know, help me to understand rather than to be understood. Right? Just those 3 lines. I don't say the whole prayer because that would, you know, I'd get too caught up in that and like, I got to say the whole prayer, and then I wouldn't say the whole prayer. But if I say those 3 lines in a moment of really wanting to make a situation about me, it brings me out of it really quick. I found, you know. I'm going to real quick run through these, and then I'm going to kind of wrap it up here for the evening, and then you guys get Bob. So, the first one actually I talked about, you know, personal recovery depends on AA unity. You know, I need you to stay sober. I need the groups to stay sober. I need fellowship to stay sober. I need my sponsees to stay sober. You know, without you, there is no me. And it's really that simple, you know? And how I support that in my life and how I support that in the groups, right, is that I trust God in all things, right? And I realize that I'm just a servant, right? I'm a servant in AA. I'm no better, no worse, right? And my ego wants to put me there, one end of the spectrum or the other, you know? It wants to put me there, you know? And staying right in the middle and staying present is always a challenge for me. And the only requirement for me is not to drink, right? I don't drink. I don't come to AA drinking, you know. But if I did, I know you'd love me anyway because it's only a desire, right? And I try to stay sober at home in my life, you know. And I've been successful at doing this because I've been as consistent as I possibly could be with this program. I haven't done it perfectly, but I have had great sponsorship. I've had people that let me know, like, oh, you just had a baby? Go to AA. You know, oh, you're filing bankruptcy? Go to AA. Oh, you're going through a divorce? AA. You know, the solution is always the same. It always works. You know, I don't need a whole lot more. I'm not saying that I haven't sought out, you know, went out in different directions and stuff like that, but I always come back, you know, this has been my base always. This is my church, you know. Listen, and I can be autonomous, right? So if you think we're a cult, you know, hey, we're not. You know, you can be autonomous, right? You can act the way you want and have that freedom that you want, right? As long as you don't hurt the group, right? And as long as the group, if your home group can also be autonomous, as long as it doesn't hurt AA as a whole, right? And then you can find that out real simply. And in my life, I can be autonomous as long as I'm not hurting my family, right? So I can do what I want. I can have the freedom that I want as long as I'm not hurting the people that I love in my family. When I first met my boyfriend, I said to him, I do a lot of AA. And he's like, that's nice. And I'm like, no, what you don't understand is I do a lot of AA. And I said, if you want to date me, that is something you're either going to have to join me or just be okay with. And I don't even think he knew what he was signing up for, but I'll tell you what, he's gotten pretty okay with it. You know, I always invite him. I invited him tonight. I always invite him. You know, he gets a little uncomfortable. You know, he doesn't like it too much, and that's okay. You know, someday maybe not, and that's okay. You know, he's not one of us, so he doesn't really think he needs to be here. I have a primary purpose. I have a primary purpose in AA, and I have a primary purpose outside of AA. You know, and that has given me the best part of my life is my primary purpose. You know, because anytime I start flailing, because I'll flail, I'm like, why am I here? Right? I'm like, what? You know, I want to get into like these really deep, complex kind of, what am I doing here? You know, especially when it comes sometimes with my career and stuff like that. You know, and my primary purpose is to help another alcoholic. That's it. Personally, and when I come into AA, you know, I don't use AA for financial gain. I don't come in here and be like, hey, I do mortgages. You know what I mean? I don't do that. You know, I've had people come to me and say, hey, I do mortgages, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I'd be more than happy to help you. But I don't come into AA and solicit business at all. And I think that has been huge. And AA doesn't go out and solicit society, right? They don't, you know, they've turned down lots of money. I think they have like a $10,000 cap. And I think you have to be a member, actually, to even give that much. And non-members, I think, is almost 1,000, if I remember correctly. Somebody can correct me on that. So I know, like, you know, Rockefeller was the one that kind of helped put that, you know, into place for Bill and the society, you know, knowing that money would ruin this thing. And I have to remember that, like, money will ruin things sometimes, right? We get caught up in making money. I had to learn to be fully self-supporting. This one's great when you're a daddy's girl, you know? And when my dad passed away right before I came into AA, and that's kind of what catapulted me into the program, because I was like, oh shit, who's gonna clean up my mess, right? Because my dad, I'm like, I need rent, I just took out a gas pump, you know what I mean? I just killed someone, you know? And he's like, all right, let's hide the body, you know? Like he was like my go-to guy, right? And so when I came to AA, I had to learn to be fully self-supporting, and today I have been for a very long time, you know. I'm not saying I don't accept gifts, but I'm just kidding. But, you know, I don't depend on anyone else, and I don't go to anyone else feeling that they should owe me anything. You know, and that's really important. And AA taught me that. And in my group, I think it's very important. You know, I put a lot of money in the basket to help AA be fully self-supporting. I'm a member. I want to support that group. You know what I mean? $1 or $2, if that's all you have because you're new in sobriety. But if AA is giving you a good life and you're making a lot of money, you're still putting $1 or $2 in the basket. There, for the grace of God, go I. Okay. So, I try to do AA for free and for fun. You know, I do it for free and I sponsor a lot of women. I do a lot of things. And I just try to enjoy it as much as I can for free and for fun. You know, there's a part of my mind that sometimes is like, I can make money doing this, you know, and I'm like, nope, for free and for fun. And I am responsible to those that I serve, right? When anyone reaches out for help, I am responsible, right? And I want to make sure that I'm in a position to help, to be helpful, to be a power of example of this program. I have no opinion on outside issues, and that is for real, for real. You know, I don't, you know, AA asked that, no, you know, that stuff not be brought into AA, politics, religion, any of that kind of stuff. You know, it got heated here for a few years, didn't it though, kids, right? And you know, I think that tradition was really challenged for a lot of people in a lot of situations. And I know that I think we all navigated it the best we could, you know? And when it started to come up, I'm like, no opinion on outside issues, kids. Nope. You know, and even personally in my life, when I have a conversation with somebody, you'll never know where I stand politically. You'll never know where I stand. And it's not that I don't have opinions or anything like that. It doesn't belong. You know, because most of my conversations, I'm trying to be a walking, living example of Alcoholics Anonymous in case somebody wants it. In my community, with my children, outside of these rooms. I try to live this program to the best of my ability. Okay, so, and I try to live by attraction rather than promotion, right? I do the best I can. I'm not always attractive sometimes. You know what I mean? My personality isn't always attractive sometimes. But I try to do the best I can. This guy cut me off, right? The other day. It was like 2 weeks ago. My son was in the car, right? He cut me off. I was like, that motherfucker. And I hit the gas, and I was like, I was like, sure, right? I don't know what. And my son was like, Jesus, Mom. And I get next to the guy, and I'm ready to do some sort of finger, window, chuck something. I don't know what I was going to do. And I go right up to him, and something, I think, what if that guy walks in AA? And I went, and I looked at my son, he goes, oh, thank God, Mom. I was like, yeah. I mean, he could have shot us. You know, today you don't know, right? But it is really important that I'm you know, doing this to the best of my ability. And last is that I am one among many, right? That's it. And learning to put principles before personalities, which I'll touch on tomorrow, and about practicing my principles in all my affairs. And I'll tell you, putting principles before personalities is probably one of the hardest things that I believe in this program to live by, right? Because I can get very justified by your personality. You know, if you're not nice or you have a bad day and you come at me, I feel very justified at coming at you just with the same kind of energy, you know? And I always have to, you know, I don't have a good pause, right? That's not something I've been gifted with, right? And I really have to be careful with that. And it's taken me a lot of years to realize that when I come back with principle, it doesn't mean I can't be stern. It doesn't mean I can't be with conviction, right? I just have to do it with principle, you know? And if I take a minute to do that, I get, you know, the gifts of that is so much more greater, you know? So with that being said, I have a wonderful life in Alcoholics Anonymous today because of these traditions, because I try to practice unity, you know, to the best of my ability, you know? And I try to be the best power of example I can about this program. And when I stay right in the middle with you guys, you know what I mean? When I'm right here in the middle, I'm the happiest I am, you know? And then I try to bring that energy and that love home, you know, so that I can share that. And that's all I got tonight, so thanks for letting me share.